I'm an active part of the team. There's not anything that I wouldn't ask a leader to do that I wouldn't do myself. And in some cases, I tell them, hey, look, I'm going to go do this. I could ask you to do it, but you're busy. So I'm going to do this and I'll come back to you and report back on what happened. So sometimes, I joke around that, well, I really work for this person. I really work for this person. I say that tongue in cheek. But at the end of the day, a big part of my job is to support my staff. What is it that they need from me so that they can be more successful?
Do you share your mistakes, or how do you show that you're not the perfect person all the time?
I'm probably too open. You got to make a few mistakes to really learn something. If you never make a mistake, you're probably not trying hard enough, pushing yourself enough, taking enough risk. So mistakes are okay. Just try not to make big ones. That's the message I send my folks.
And if you do a big one, right, be fast.
If you think this is really going to be bad, then let's talk about it first. But don't be afraid to make a few mistakes.
Yeah.
I also like to work with and promote people that I believe are great leaders. I think leadership is one of those things that gets talked about a lot, but I'm not sure it gets practiced enough.
You can have great leaders, and you can have leaders that maybe are not as great. So how do you define if I don't know if it's you, but when somebody is a good leader?
That's a great question. I think in my experience, so much of leadership, I think, is attitude, perspective, kind of how your core DNA is set up. I know that in my history, in my career, I've learned things from great leaders and I've learned things from bad leaders.
Same.
And sometimes the things you learn from a bad leader are good lessons, not in terms of what to do, but what not to do, right?
Yeah.
Leadership is one of those things that it's a little bit hard to describe, but when you see it, you know it.
There's one leadership instinct many senior people lose along the way, and that's the willingness to stay open, not to say no too fast, not to pigeonhole yourself, to take the meeting, hear the idea, and see what actually scratched that itch. My guest today built a 30-plus year career on that instinct, and it still shapes how he leads today. Welcome to Leadership Manufacturing Podcast. I'm your host, Sannah Vinding. I'm an engineer, go-to-market leader, focusing on how leaders operate when complexity is high and the answer is not always obvious. This show is for leaders across electronics, manufacturing, distribution, and supply chain. It's about practical leadership for technical teams. There's no hype, no theory, just what actually works. My guest today is Jeff Newell. He's the president at Mouser Electronics. Jeff is an engineer by training, and he spent more than 20 years at Texas Instrument in distribution and in operation roles, including director of Americas Distribution. He later joined Mouser as the senior vice president of products, where he led global supply engagement, pricing, and technical support across more than 1,000 manufacturers before stepping into the president role. What stands out about Jeff is how he described his own career. He never had one specific job where he was aiming for. He stayed open to what came next. And with that instinct is how he shapes and how he builds leaders. He gives feedback and tests whether he's leading well. And we're going to talk about what servant leadership looks like at the top of a global business, how he gives feedback without making it personal, and why he believes the real test of leadership is whether your successor is ready, and the simple piece of career advice that stayed with him longer than any title. So enjoy the episode. Thanks for tuning in to Leadership Manufacturing Podcast. I am joined by Jeff Newell. He's the president at Mouser Electronics. And we're going to get into what it actually means to lead at scale in distribution. We're going to touch on leadership decisions, how they're getting made when the market are changing. And also going to talk about, how do you stay close to engineers and customers when the business grows. So welcome, Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Okay. I always start this podcast or the show. I always want to hear people's passions, right? Who's in the industry. So what's your passion about the electronics industry?
There is just something about this industry that I find, number one, very exciting. Obviously, it's large, it's dynamic, it moves very quick. It's never the same, right? You'll have great years, you'll have down years, you'll have technologies that seemingly come out of nowhere. I mean, we're going through this AI boom right now, which is driving the industry in a very different way than we saw during the COVID pandemic, which drove it in a very different way than we saw, in past cycles. So I just find it very exciting, and there's some great people in our industry, and that may be true of most industries, but what I found over time is the people in the industry, the connections you make, that's really what makes it
Yeah.
fun. And it's not just people that you work with, but people that you might have worked with in a past job that are now at, maybe they're at a competitor, maybe they're at a peer, maybe they're at a distributor as a supplier, et cetera, et cetera. So people don't tend to leave our industry much.
No.
I think that's a testament to this is a good place to be. It's dynamic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of growth opportunities for folks that are looking for that, but there's also a lot of good, stable jobs if people are looking for that. So I just really enjoy the industry, and I'm always, I'm an engineer by school, and I'm very interested in technology, and you're right in the middle of it when you're in the electronics industry.
Yeah, I really like what you say, because I'm seeing the same, right? The network, or how you connect with everybody within the industry. Everybody is so nice. And it's not, when you look at different industries, you don't have that kind of same, like, oh, let's, here's my advice, right? Or this is how we're doing it, or, or staying together, or can actually, have fun over that beer, right? So there is something unique, I think, about this industry, but it can also feel sometimes like a hidden industry. If you haven't heard about it, you're like, what are they doing, right? But when you're in it, and I've been in it for many years, just like you, right? You're just like, yeah, this is an awesome place to be in.
And it touches everything. I mean, really it was the pandemic cycle that caused people to understand what the term supply chain means.
Oh, yeah.
And we live that every day. I mean, we are part of the electronic supply chain.
Yeah.
And when you really step back and you think about how large the industry is and how it touches pretty much every person on the planet in their everyday life,
Yeah.
you really understand the the complexity of the industry, but how meaningful it is. I mean, the world would not run without electronic components. It's just that
No.
simple.
Yeah, it is, right? And I think if you look in your home as well and seeing how many electronics devices you have, and it expands, right? We have a little vacuum cleaner that goes around, and that's been upgraded a few times. So now it's even more clever, right? But there's so many devices in our house, right? If you just look personal. So it's something where it grows even more. And maybe you don't think all the times that there is some electronics inside. So yeah. I love that. We also see the future, right? Sometimes before the customer sees the future.
For sure.
So that's a good place to be.
And it keeps you on your toes. I mean, technology moves pretty quick. I have aging parents, and they just get more and more frustrated because they can't figure out how to make their phone work or how to do a FaceTime call. And
Yeah.
you're in this industry, you've got to be accustomed to things are going to change, and you're constantly relearning how to do something different.
Yeah. And it can be scary, right? Because also you don't want to get attacked, right? Through all these digital solutions, but as well, you can't be afraid of not joining it. So yeah, it's a balance game.
Yeah.
I wanna touch a little bit on leadership, of course. So I wanna hear, how has your leadership style changed? And you just touched it, right? That back to the pandemic, right? That changed how everybody was looking at distribution. We can also talk about AI and saying the habits we're changing the way how we act, how we behave, how we search. But that's just, this is what's coming outside. So inside, how has your leadership style changed over the last couple of years?
I wouldn't say that it's changed. I just think that in the job that I'm in now, I have more opportunities to use it. And I am very much a servant leader. I don't want to ask folks on our team to do something that I either haven't done or wouldn't do. Sometimes it's good to be in the weeds to really understand how things are working at various levels. But I'm also very much an enabler, right? I want to give our folks a chance to do their jobs. If there's some kind of wall or something, some issue that they have, how can I remove that so that they can be more successful? How do I give them the autonomy to go act and not be afraid of making mistakes? I'm very much in the mode that, you got to make a few mistakes to really learn something. If you never make a mistake, you're probably not trying hard enough, pushing yourself enough, taking enough risk. So mistakes are okay. Just try not to make big ones. That's the message I send my folks.
And if you do a big one, right, be fast.
If you think this is really going to be bad, then let's talk about it first. But if don't be afraid to make a few mistakes.
Yeah.
I also like to, work with and promote people that I believe are great leaders. I think leadership is one of those things that gets talked about a lot, but I'm not sure it gets practiced enough. Meaning, how do I put leaders in place that can lead their team without me be constantly involved, right? I've got a big job, lots of things going on. I don't have the time to spend with, every single person in the company. So how do I inspect what I expect, right? How do I
Yeah.
put leaders in place that can do their job and that I have enough relationship and trust and dialogue with, that as things are happening, I'm in the loop, I know what's going on, I can help solve some problems, or I can help foresee issues that they're likely to hit in the near future, maybe the long-term future, and how do we come up with plans to maneuver around that, or maybe, shift our focus into something else.
Yeah.
In this job, I think I get a lot more chance to use those skills and continue to hone them. I mean, I'm learning every day, right? I
Yeah.
don't think we're ever done learning. So, how
Oh,
do I continue to learn different styles of people, different tasks inside of Mauser that I might not have been involved in before? And I
yeah.
find it very exciting. I mean, we've got
Yeah.
a great team of people, and I love this job, and I'm happy that I'm here.
Nice. It's also like you have to read people, right? Or read the room, because you don't lead everybody the same way.
Yes.
So how do you do that quick like X-ray?
That's a good point. I am I like sarcasm. I think sarcasm is a unique tool, but I've had to be careful in this job
Yeah.
that if I don't know the person very well, or if they're at levels below me, sarcasm can be read differently. And I don't want to send a message that I didn't intend to send. So I've had to be a lot more thoughtful about how I communicate certain messages, certain topics to people, because I don't want them to read something in my speech that I don't mean to be there. As an example, jokes with people. I try to find humor in what we do, because I think humor is a great um, barrier knocker down, so to speak, where
Yeah.
if someone's nervous and use a little humor, they're going to relax a little bit. Sometimes humor can be taken out of context, so I've got to be a little careful about the jokes that I say,
Yeah.
the way I say something, and also just the message. I'm not a dictator. I don't like micromanagers. That's never been my style. Some people need um, more description or more guardrails, because they might be a little bit concerned about a direction that they're going. So I've really had to also understand how a person wants to communicate with me, how they listen, how they act,
Yeah.
and put more guardrails in place for those people that want that, but remove guardrails for people that don't want that.
Yeah.
So you're really right. Everybody likes to be led a little bit differently, and I've had to think more proactively about that with the staff that I'm now
Yeah.
managing at Mauser.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to be careful, right? And you have to listen, I think, as well, right? That's a big part of it. Um, now
I'm a
we
big Stephen Covey fan, so I really like
yeah.
the seek first to understand. I really try to listen and understand where someone's coming from first before we
Yeah.
start to really engage.
Yeah. I like what you said before, where that you learn every week, right? And it's you make mistakes as well. So do you share your mistakes, or how do you show that you're not the perfect person all the time?
I'm probably too open, especially from what people were used to with Glenn when Glenn was leading Mauser. Glenn was a little bit more close to the vest. I'm
Yeah.
very open. I feel that the best way to build trust and rapport with someone is to expose your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yeah.
So if there's a mistake that's made, I'll be the first one to jump on the sword and say, I made the wrong call there. I'm sorry. Let's move.
Oh,
Because
that's big.
I want my folks to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We won't
Yeah.
make every decision correctly, but if you can quickly see, wow, that was the wrong decision to make, let's stop doing that and let's start doing something else. I think you
Yeah.
give the rest of the staff the comfort level that, wow, if the big boss can make mistakes, then I can certainly make mistakes, and no one's going to, fire me for that.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. I still have a job tomorrow, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's the way to get an organization moving more quickly, is to fail quickly, right? If
Yeah.
we're going to do something wrong, well, let's figure it out quick and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't sit and hide it, right? Let's bring
Yeah,
it to the surface and let's find that solution so you can pivot or make that change fast.
yeah. If you have bad news, let's bring it quick, because the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot there. What about when you stepped in to be the president of Mouse Electronics? What changed the most?
What changed the most was really just the transition from someone that had been in this job for a very long time. I mean, I think the world of Glenn Smith. He's such a great person. But the situation was really unique. He was at Mauser for 52 years.
Yeah.
And he was in charge of Mauser for 36 years. 36 years, one person in charge. I mean, it's just almost unheard of
Yeah.
in our industry today that you would have that scenario. So, I took the responsibility very seriously. I tried not to make too much change too quickly because Mauser is a very successful company, and I got great advice from one of our suppliers who I think a lot of that had gone through a similar situation where he said, don't change stuff too quickly because everybody's going to wonder
Yeah.
why are you doing that, right? Mauser's such a successful company, and I really took that to heart. What is changing is style. I'm a much different leader than Glenn. I'm much more open. I'm much more communicative. That's been something that my staff has gotten to be. They had to get used to that. They all knew me. I'd been here for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's just a very different style. I'm also not a micromanager at all, so I'm learning the various departments of Mauser that I didn't manage before. But I have total and complete trust in my staff that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I just simply want to understand more of how that machine works, who the leaders are, and help them figure out, how to continue to move us forward, where we have issues, how to solve those, where to get the right people in jobs that can grow into bigger and bigger responsibilities over time is really where I'm spending the bulk of my time.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I don't think, you don't want to freak anybody out, right?
Yes.
But you want to understand, because if you start freaking somebody out, or a whole organization or different teams, suddenly, I don't know if you want to, more mistakes can happen, right? Because then it's like, do we then make that decision? Do we not make that decision? So going in that slow and understand and listen, right, is a really, really good path to go down on.
And a lot of my staff were my peers for 10, 12 years. It's a different thing now that I'm the boss, but
Yeah.
I still want to have the same very good relationship, same open communication lanes, and let them know that I trust them. I trust that they know what they're doing, and they need to trust that I'll listen and I won't react too quickly. But I also want to, I want to see the flaws just as much as I want to see the bright spots.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Talking about what you said again, right, with the pandemic and with the everybody, the distribution, right? Suddenly everybody was like, oh, we need distribution. What's happening? And this is at risk and stuff like that. So what changes with engineers? What do they expect from a distributor? And how has Mauser changed or adapt, to keep up, to be able to support engineers?
That's a great question. I mean, the electronics distribution marketplace in the last 5 years has gone through some wild cycles, and it feels like we're getting ready to go through another one right now. We really take a lot of time and effort to make sure that the engineer who is our core customer is taken care of. And we do that in various ways. Number one, how do we continue to make our website the tool that an engineer goes to find information, to research product, to compare and contrast, to find information, technical information, etc. It's really more of a design resource than it is a e-commerce engine. Yes, it does that too. It does it very well. It does it for close to 1 million people globally are going to buy on our website this year.
Yeah.
But really try to first understand what that journey looks like from the time an engineer comes to the website to when they may or may not check out with a cart. They may or may not buy something. Excuse me. So we put a lot of emphasis on the website, the speed of the website. How do we quickly allow a design engineer to find what they're looking for? As we get into the AI age, how do we make the search on the website more conversational versus part numbers or parametrics or things like that? We're going through that process right now. But we also try to protect our inventory for the design engineer. And a perfect example, when we went through the pandemic cycle, on the shelf inventory became much more critical because everything was selling in higher quantities faster than normal, and we were starting to stock out of a lot of product.
Yeah.
We would take the opportunity to protect our inventory by only selling small quantities of a given part number, because even though we love selling to a contract manufacturer, we didn't want to sell all of our inventory on a given part number to a contract manufacturer so that the engineer had nothing to buy for the next 3, 6, 9 months.
You want to feed that innovation, right? And the R&Ds.
And we're really set up to help the engineers find exactly what they want for their next bill of materials, be able to buy small quantities, try those parts out, make sure that their bill of material is right before they turn it over to purchasing to go into production.
Yeah.
And when we talk out a product, it's really hard. And so the discussion I would have with suppliers is, look, we're going to protect the inventory so that it lasts as long as possible so that we can help the engineers find what they need. I need your help to get more product on the shelf so that we don't stock out. Because if your part would have been the perfect solution for an engineer's block, but they can't get it at Mauser, they're going to put something else in that socket.
Yeah.
That means you lose a design-in opportunity. So we really try hard to not just make the website a design resource for the engineer, but also to make the on-the-shelf inventory position as holistic as possible across as many part numbers as possible so that they can find that right part for their next design.
Yeah. I'm pausing the show because I want to make sure you signed up for the newsletter. Every week, I share what I've learned for Leadership Manufacturing podcast conversation. And AI is all over, right? And AI is not what makes leadership hard in this industry. It's the human part. And that's what this newsletter is built around. So sign up, go to leadershipmanufacturing.com. Back to the show. Yeah, and remove friction, right? The easier you can make that website, or the easier you can make that they can buy it, put it in that shopping cart, and have it as fast as possible. That's the way to go, right? Because the less frictions an engineer will sit and have, they will like, oh, it worked so well last time, right? Or the last couple of months has been so easy. So then that is going to be the browser that they have open, right, on their desktop.
And that goes from everything from finding information to buying products. Buying products on our website is very simple. As a matter of fact, I had a customer reach out to me last week telling me what a great experience it was buying on our website, and they're going to use it in the future simply because it was so simple. And that's music to our ears. I mean, a lot of customers like to complain about what doesn't work right, but when you're
but that's the easy part to complain,
so
right?
Easy. I'm so appreciative. Like, wow, okay, we're doing something right. Let's do more.
Yeah. No, it is. I think it's the stories, right? I think you can look at that in your personal life as well, right? If you go to a store and you have a great experience, if they solve something, right? You come in and it was irritating and they solve it, you share that to so many because that's a good story. But you also share when they're like, they didn't do it, right? So that's just part of life, but it's great to see it, in the industry, right? And I think for you guys, right? When you also get that positive feedback, you're like, we're doing the right thing. And it's not as easy to get all the positive feedback.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What about, so we talked a little bit about, you said, right, inventory and the market is shifting and stuff like that. So with all these cycles, I think when I look back now, it's also like there's never a year, right, where there's no disruption. There's always something. So how do you prepare
for those years? But we don't get many.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in this industry my entire career, so from 1991 until now, and when you first go through these cycles, it's very stressful.
Yeah.
But once you've done it a few times, you just realize this is the way the market works. We're going to go through cycles, down cycles. Sometimes you get some, just normal growth years, which are inevitably feel good. They don't feel great because we grew, double digits last year and we're only going to grow single digits. It doesn't feel good, but it gives you a chance to really kind of step back and say, okay, what can we get to now that we couldn't get to last year because things were so crazy? We were just trying to satisfy all the customers' demands and ship all the orders, et cetera. Now that things have slowed down a little bit, can we get back to maybe fixing some issues that we know need fixed or putting different plans in place for future growth? But, you get kind of used to the cycles.
Yeah.
And if you have the right perspective, you try what I try to do. I try to see the tea leaves of we're about to go into one. So let's get ready. Let's start doing some things to prepare. But almost more importantly, when the cycle starts to roll over, how do you quickly see that, okay, things are changing. We might want to pull back a little bit. We might want to scale back a little bit because inevitably the downside is not fun.
No,
that's the real bad part of the industry is that you go through these kind of boom and bust cycles. In the boom cycle, you can do no wrong, but in the bust cycle, you really have to be smart about where you're investing, what your head count looks like, how much inventory you have on the shelf so that you can more gradually ride the wave down and be ready for the next cycle up.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes up and down, right? It's like the stock market as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah. So when something breaks, right? What's the first? If something breaks, right? Because the market is moving faster. What's
Yes.
the first thing that will break?
Normally, what we see in these cycles is the first thing we see is lead times extend more quickly than we're able to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
So the first thing to break for us is we start to stock out of product because we haven't been able to replenish it fast enough or get orders out in place fast enough compared to what the lead times do. So we work very collectively with our suppliers to try to, you know, have them help us. How can we do a better job and how can they do a better job to ensure we always have product on the shelf? It's really hard to get a handle on how much double and triple ordering there is, and
Yeah.
that's one thing our industry does not seem to do better. It's every time we go through a cycle, customers place multiple orders for product because they want to see who can get it to them first.
Yeah.
But that sends false demand signals into the industry, which then causes problems, in a year two, a year three, year four.
Yeah.
It's really hard for us to see that because so much of our business is book ship. We don't really have a lot of scheduled orders and scheduled backlog. So we have to look at different signals that we can try and discern. Is the industry continuing to grow? Are we starting to flatten? Are we headed down, et cetera? Um, Luckily, we don't get lots and lots of very large orders in terms of quantities per part number. That's not just not our business. That's
Yeah.
not what we're set up to do. But still, if we have a lot of customers that have placed orders on us that are back ordered now because we don't have the product, if the product starts to show up more quickly, a lot of those orders will disappear because they're going to go, back to their supply chain partner, and that's really hard for us to deal with
Yeah.
because we just aren't set up to manage that type of activity. And we do the best we can. I think we do a great job of working through those with customers, but that's something that is tough for us to do, that we're trying to figure out how do we get better at that,
Yeah.
because these cycles will continue for sure.
Yeah, they will, right? And there will be different signals as well, right? And customers are changing as well. So you have to find and make that strategy, right? How to fit in the best way so you can actually scale when you need to.
Yeah.
Or pivot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go back to leadership a little bit, because again, I think you can have great leaders and you can have leaders that maybe are not as great. So how do you define if I don't know if it's you, but when somebody is a good leader?
That's a great question. I think in my experience, in a lot, so much of leadership, I think, is attitude, perspective, kind of how your core DNA is set up. I know that in my history, in my career, I've learned things from great leaders and
Yeah.
I've learned things from bad leaders.
Same.
And sometimes the things you learn from a bad leader are good lessons, not in terms of what to do, but what not to do, right?
Yeah.
Leadership is one of those things that it's a little bit hard to describe, but when you see it, you know it. That's why. So in my history, I've worked for some bad leaders that I swore I won't do things that way because I didn't like that. The team didn't respond well to that. I didn't think that was the right tack to take, et cetera. But then you also learn things from great leaders, and I've had great leaders that I've worked for in my career. What I try to instill upon my team is lead by example. I think that's the best thing that you can do is set the example, show people the type of direction, the type of communication, the type of leadership that you wish they would emulate.
Yeah.
And I've done some of that with the leaders that I've worked for. I've tried to emulate traits or ways that they did things because I thought, wow, that's pretty sharp. That's pretty good. I really liked how I responded, how my other peers responded to that leader versus others. And so I try to do that in practice every day. I try to, again, not this whole servant leadership thing. I don't put myself on a pedestal. I'm just one of the team. I'm an active part of the team. There's not anything that I wouldn't ask a leader to do that I wouldn't do myself. And in some cases, I tell them, hey, look, I'm going to go do this. I could ask you to do it, but you're busy. So I'm going to do this and I'll come back to you and report back on what happens. So sometimes, I joke around that, well, I really work for this person. I really work for this person. And I say that tongue in cheek. But at the end of the day, a big part of my job is to support my staff. what is it that they need from me
Yeah.
so that they can be more successful.
Yeah.
I put a lot of emphasis on that, and I put a lot of emphasis on the team. I'm a big team player. I think that a team working well together will be more successful than a bunch of individuals that may be moving in the right direction, but not collectively.
Yeah.
So I put a lot of emphasis on team, on relationship. Do we get along? Do we work well together? Do we communicate?
Yeah.
Not that we have to be nice to each other all the time. At a
You have
recent
to respect each other, right? But you
yeah,
can disagree and then still agree, right?
yeah, absolutely. I told my staff last year. I said we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Meaning, don't be afraid to push each other, but it has to be done with respect. It has to be done in the right framework.
Yeah.
That we want our business to move forward. We all believe that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to push each other to make sure that we are having enough forward momentum based upon what's going on in the marketplace. Otherwise, we could fall behind.
Yeah. I like that. I also like when you said, you're learning from both, right? The great leaders and maybe the not as great leaders. And I love when a leader comes in and saying, how can I help? But it has to be done that you actually are helping, right?
Yeah,
It's not like just that phrase you're putting in and then you're pointing at somebody else, right? You really have to lean in. But when you see that kind of like stepping up and leaning in, I think that makes magic in a leadership and in a team. That's what I've seen.
and you can't be afraid to deal with problems. There'll always be problems.
Yeah.
Leaders that avoid problems, I think, just make the problem worse.
Yeah.
I would rather get to it quickly and squelch it, maneuver around it, etc., before it grows to the point where, oh my gosh, now it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Big problems are hard to solve. Small problems are easy to solve.
Yeah.
So let's get to it while it's still small and not worry about it.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. And you have problems every week, right? If you didn't, something's wrong.
That's right. Yeah. Nothing is ever perfect.
No. Just note for everyone, also for our kids, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So if I'm sure you have to give feedback, right? To your peers, right? Or in your team,
Yes.
How do you approach that? Because sometimes giving feedback can land in different ways.
I'm a big fan of no public performance reviews. So I try to praise in public if I have something that's not positive or that's going to be tough to hear. I always try to do that in private.
Yeah.
And you can't be afraid to give feedback. I mean, people want feedback generally. Some people don't like to hear that they're not doing a great job, which is more of an ego thing. But most people want to understand, where do you think I'm doing a great job? Where do you think I'm covering my bases, and where do you think I have room to work?
Yeah.
I always do the room to work stuff in private, and I have a lot of one-on-ones with my staff, and we talk about a lot of different things. And sometimes it's not a great positive conversation. I just had one yesterday.
Yeah.
But if the person has the right frame of mind and they want to get better, the only way you get better is by working on your strengths, but also trying to limit your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And sometimes the weakness can be turned into a strength over time. Maybe not right away. Sometimes you just have to do less of what you're not good at.
Yeah.
So I try to have those conversations sincerely, with respect, not get angry, not yell and curse and all those things. I don't think that's very effective.
No.
But you can't wait too long.
No.
If you see someone doing something or exhibiting a behavior that you don't like, you got to hit it quick.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
you have to be honest, right?
Absolutely. Or you lose the situational factors that maybe made that the wrong thing at the wrong time. If you wait 3 months to have a conversation, they've forgotten what happened back then. So it's not useful.
Yeah. And again, right, if you waited that long, right, that person or employee maybe remember it's totally different because your brain is like, you have so much other stuff going on, right?
Absolutely.
And then you lose that momentum to get aligned again.
Or they think, well, if it was a big deal, why did you wait so long to bring it up? Right? And they might just discount. Well, it wasn't a big deal.
He wasn't big. Yeah, then you would have said something. What about you? How do you get feedback?
That's an interesting question. I ask for it. I ask for it from my staff. I ask for it from my boss. Glenn wasn't great on giving feedback because he didn't really like conflict, so I didn't have a lot of that. But he would say, God love Glenn, he would say things like, Jeff, don't worry. If you're doing a bad job, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I guess I'm doing a good job. I'm open to it. I'm very open to it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with all of it. Sometimes the person doesn't see the whole picture.
Yeah.
But if you believe that their feedback is inaccurate, I always try to help them understand, well, maybe there was a different scenario happening behind the scenes you didn't see. So let me help bring you up to speed on that. But
Yeah.
you can't be defensive on feedback. You got to want it.
Yeah.
And I think great leaders want feedback, and they will use that feedback to change their style, change their tactics, maybe change the way they communicate with a given person. Because again, everybody communicates differently. Everybody
Yeah.
listens differently. So much of what you communicate to your staff, you've got to follow up with questions to make sure that they heard what you said.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say something, people hear something different. So
Yeah.
I'd like to ask a lot of follow-up questions on, okay, what did you hear? What do you think about this, to make sure that the message was delivered as intended?
Yeah. Closing that loop, right? And making sure, because you could have heard it for so many years, or it's been maybe not mid-months, right? If it's a strategy or what the next initiative is, you already know all the details. But when you communicate it the first time, you need to be sure that you communicate it more, get the questions, get that loop back, right? Because
Correct.
you know it. But if somebody just heard it for that first time, it lands differently.
And the worst thing is if someone heard something in my message that was either wrong or overly negative, and I didn't intend it to be that negative,
Yeah.
if they sit on that for a week or 2 weeks before you follow up, it could really bother them. It could,
Yeah.
cause a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety, stress, or quite honestly, sometimes they could start thinking, maybe I'm not in the right job. Maybe I need to start looking.
Yeah.
And my staff today, there's not a person I would want to leave. I have a great staff.
Right.
So just
Yeah.
constant open communication is always the hallmark for
Yeah.
building trust and rapport with people.
Yeah. Yeah. Leadership is about communication, right? Understanding,
Absolutely.
and that it's a core thing, yeah. Or core
You
skill.
also have to, in my experience, you know, you have to want to be a leader. Some people are leaders by design. Some naturally fall into it, but I want someone that's going to be in a leadership position in my team to want to be a leader, because that's something that it comes with pros and cons.
Yeah.
When you're leading a team of people, it's never perfect. There's always personality issues, family problems to
Yeah.
deal with. And if you don't sincerely want to help that person with their problems, you probably won't be a good leader over time, because leadership's all about people,
Yeah.
right? And if I don't care about the people that I'm working with, and I really sincerely want to help them with whatever problem they come to me with, I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to be a great leader.
Yeah. No, it's
So
under
that's
it
what
does a
I've
full
tried.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see when you have somebody with, in the team, right? When will they be ready to take more on more responsibility? What is it that you can look for, you see, when are they ready?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I tell my staff is, I'll probably give them more responsibility when I think they're ready. They may not think they're ready, but if I
Yeah.
think they're ready, sometimes I like to push them and see how much more can they do, because it's easy to get, I won't say complacent, but when you've been doing a job for a reasonable amount of time, it gets easier. If you're doing it well, then it should get easier because you know how the machine works and who the
Yeah.
people are, etc. And I always want to make sure that there's a little bit more on their plate than they have the ability to really handle, and not too fast. You don't want to push
No.
people too fast and get them
Yeah.
out of the comfort zone too fast. But at the end of the day, if you're a good leader, you should always be able to take on more responsibility, coupled with, is your replacement ready to go?
Yeah.
So talk about promotion, and the first thing I tell someone is, well, is your successor ready? Because if your successor is not ready, then
Yeah.
you're not ready,
Yeah.
right? That's one of the things that any leader should think about the first day in the job. And that's what I've done is, okay, if something were to happen to me, if I wanted to go do something different, bigger, whatever, do I have people on my staff that are capable and or ready to take on more responsibility?
Yeah.
I think any good leader has succession planning in the back of their mind at all times, and it will ebb and flow in terms of how important is it today versus tomorrow. But that's always something that you should be thinking about.
Yeah.
So that also comes into the how much more responsibility can I give to someone. Also comes back to, well, is your staff ready to pick up more responsibility? Because if I ask you to do more, that means you're probably going to delegate something down to the people on your staff. And so
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a waterfall that if your staff is ready for more, then by definition, you are ready for more.
Yeah. Like it. Yeah. So it's understanding, right? And making sure the whole environment and the setup is there, because if you don't, they won't be able to succeed. And
Right.
that's what you want, right? You want them to succeed. Yeah.
I don't want to push someone to do more until I think they're ready for it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you could step backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. And then fix that after if it doesn't succeed, right? Takes even more effort.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you wanna make sure you planned everything here.
Yeah.
I want to ask as well, because again, with your career, right? If you look back and just saying somebody who gave you a really good advice, anything that stands out, or maybe it can be more than one advice where you're saying, yeah, that one is, I'm keeping this one.
There are two pieces of advice that have stuck with me through my career. The first one was I was a young person. I worked for Texas Instruments. I was in Southern California, and I was interviewing for a promotion to be a regional manager. And the area director at the time, someone I think very lot of, said, "Choose your boss wisely." And choose your boss wisely. I said, "Greg, I just want to get promoted." What do you? I wasn't mature enough yet to really understand what he was saying, which is choose your boss wisely, because that's going to set you on a different career path than the one that you might be on today.
Yeah.
One, two, choose a boss that can help you continue to develop, that's going to be a good leader, not just whoever the boss is of this person or this role that I'm interviewing for.
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about that over time, and I think that was just really good advice. Choose your boss wisely.
Yeah. They have to support your back, right?
Absolutely.
I think that is so important. If you don't have a boss that supports you, it's just not the right place to be.
And that you can learn from, and that will push you into different areas or more responsibility, or whatever the case is. So
Yeah.
choose your boss wisely was one.
Yeah.
Two was when I was at Texas Instruments and I was thinking about doing something different inside. I had been in a job for quite a bit of time, and back to the whole complacent. I think I had gotten a little complacent. The job was easy. I knew what was going on. It was fun. And so when I started looking at other things inside of TI, this person said, you might look outside too. He said, with your experience and your resume, you might be surprised what you find.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely right. And my only regret in coming to Mauser was that I didn't get here sooner. This is a great place. I've been able to add a lot of value, I think.
Yeah.
I've been able to help people in their careers. We run a really good business. Being part of the TTI family of companies, I've very much enjoyed. We're a great company to work for at that level as well. So, I think don't be afraid to look outside of your comfort zone is what I would tell somebody. You might find that inside of your company, there's more and more opportunity, and great. And I don't regret one day at TI. I loved working at TI. It's a great place, even today. Great people.
Yeah.
But I think that
it's still family, right? No.
absolutely. And I still have a lot of friends that work there.
Yeah.
But I think that, looking at opportunities outside of your current purview is always a good thing to consider, because you might be surprised what you find.
Yeah.
And I was.
And you learn a lot. I think looking into, even if it's a different industry or just a different, seat at that table within the industry, right? If it's manufacturing or distribution, you can learn so much going to another area, and the insights that you now have, or the experience you have because you've been at that table, right? All these conversations is just going to be a value.
And the most interesting thing I learned early in my Mauser career, I just assumed all big suppliers were the same. TI, Intel, Altera, Xilinx, whatever the case is, it could be more different. They're all so different personalities, different cultures. And I've really enjoyed getting to know a lot of people in the supplier community and the electronics industry. I find it fascinating. Again, there's a lot of good people, like we talked about. Some I would consider friends. Those are all different. The way they approach problems are all different. So I've really gotten a lot out of an accelerated learning curve since I've TI.
Nice. What's hard about leadership today than it was maybe like 15 years ago?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it stems from, well, let me say it this way. Leadership today, there's so much more remote leadership. we're
Yeah.
obviously a global company. We have offices all over the world, but even in Mansfield, when the pandemic hit and we pushed everybody to work from home,
Yeah.
that culture has lingered. And so there's a lot of people that we work with that aren't in the building all the time. And I think that takes a different style of leader in that when you see your people all the time, you're together all the time,
Yeah.
you get a better sense as to what's going on and who's doing well, who's not doing well. That's harder to do when you're doing it via Teams or Zoom
Yeah.
or remote. So I think that's taken more leadership skills to be able to manage in a world where you have remote resources.
Yeah.
See things kind of coming back to what it used to be before. I don't think remote work will ever go away, but I think we'll be more back in the office than we have simply because everything is kind of moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And I get great value out of spending time with people live,
Yeah.
but I also very much appreciate the efficiency that you can drive when you
Yeah.
work from home. And
Yeah.
we travel so much in these jobs that if you travel for a living, you're used to working anywhere. And
Yeah.
so people that travel, it's easy to work from home because they're used to working from hotels or
Yeah.
airports, whatever the case is. When you've not worked from home before, there's a bit of a learning curve to, how do I stay effective and
Yeah.
efficient and make sure I'm getting things done. What I find is I get more done at home because there's just less distractions, but
Yeah.
it's a different type of work than what I get done when I'm in the office.
Yeah. And everybody is different, right? Somebody wants to be
Yes.
in that office because that's where they can concentrate and get a lot done work
Yes.
do a lot, right? And others can just excel in being remote. So again, you need to make sure you're fostering everybody's right habits or where they actually drive the most.
It's been really challenging to grow and lead younger people that
Yeah.
are working from home all the time because that's kind of how they grew up. And it's an interesting conversation when you talk to a young person that aspires to do more, get promoted, et cetera. And I asked one of our young people, if you work from home full time, how would you expect to get promoted? Because nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows how you are with people. Nobody knows,
Yeah.
would this person be a good leader? Because I've seen them in scenarios at work. I said, when you are at home all the time, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
And you can just start to see them thinking, wow, I guess I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Not that you need to be in the office 5 days a week to get promoted, but
No.
people need to know who you are at higher levels because ultimately it comes down to, do I trust that this person is ready for a bigger job? And do I
Yeah.
trust they're going to be good leading a team of people?
Yeah.
And if I've not seen them live in scenarios to see how
Yeah.
they react and how they communicate, etc., that's a big leap for
Yeah.
someone to put a younger person in a leadership job that I really don't know all that well.
Yeah, it's like the behavior, right? Of a skill
Yeah.
of how do you actually interact when you're not in a meeting, right? There's other stuff that glues you together to be a better leader or to be able to be promoted.
Uh-huh. How do I take bad news? How
Yeah,
do I communicate with my peers? How do I
yeah,
communicate with other people in the company that may not be in
yeah,
my department?
yeah, yeah. There's a lot to learn, right? And again, you learn as well of being in the office and also remote. You learn how to communicate, but it's a different way when you are in person
Very much.
in the office. Yeah. Okay. Last question I have here, Jeff, is because it's always reflecting, right? Reflecting is easy. Now it's like, oh, I should have done that, right? And when you're in the moment, it can be really like, oh my God, what should I do? But I want to ask you, if you look back like 15 years ago and you had to like look at yourself and saying, what could you have done differently? So now you with your knowledge, right? What kind of advice would you give yourself if you look back like 15 years ago?
Santa, this sounds trite. I have no regrets. I don't know that I would have done anything differently.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would have suggested to my younger self 15 years ago was, again, try to get out of your comfort zone a little more quickly. Try to look at other opportunities at that time inside of TI. You might be surprised what you find.
Yeah.
Uh, that's it. I mean, I think that I was always one of those people that there were kind of in my experience, kind of two types of people. There was somebody that said, "That's the job I want, and I'm going to do anything in my power to get to that job."
Yeah.
That's not me. I was always on the side of, I want to be open to things that come at me, things that I see, because you never know what might scratch the itch at that time, what I might find interesting. And if I only have this job in mind,
Yeah.
I might miss all this other stuff that quite honestly might have been more fun, more fruitful, more interesting, a better learning experience. So
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it. So again, I don't think that I have any regrets. I don't think I would do anything drastically differently. I probably just would have pushed myself a little harder to look outside of my current purview, look outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I might be interested in what's out there. That's
Yeah.
it. And I still even today, I have that same view of I'm open to any conversation. If someone wants to talk to me about doing something different, a different job, I'm open to it. I always told younger folks at Mauser or when I was at TI, don't try not to say no too much, right?
Yeah.
If someone comes to you with an opportunity, you say no the first time, it's okay.
Yeah.
But the second time you say no, they start to draw a line of those dots and say, this person's not open to something new, so I'm going to stop talking to them.
Yeah.
I think that's bad for a person's career. You always want to have people approach you with different opportunities, different ideas, etc.
Yeah.
They don't all have to be good ones, but
No.
if nobody comes to you with an idea or an opportunity, then you start to get pigeonholed. And I never wanted to be pigeonholed in my career.
Yeah. No, and again, right, when you have these ideas, right, it just flows more, right? You're like, oh, we could look from this angle or that one. And it just gives you a much better open mind as well. And then you can close again to say, oh, this is what we can do, or this is how we can solve it.
Yes.
I like it. So Jeff, thank you so much. I love this journey. It was like all the leadership, and I really like as well, how do you know if you're a good leader, right? It's a tough question, and I think everybody needs to look at that and think about it, so they can become a much better leader.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks for listening to the episode. I appreciate you here. Please share it with somebody, either from your team, your organization, or just with somebody within the electronics industry. And again, remember, stay curious, keep learning. Check out leadershipmanufacturing.com. See you next time.